Can we go for live, ma'am?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Fine. Same thing. The only thing is, instead of PPT, it will be video.
Okay, sir.
Okay, right. Ma'am. I'm just going for live. Just wait for a few seconds.
ஒரு 5 நிமிஷத்துல வரேன். எத்தனை மணிக்கு பண்ணுமா? எல்லாம் ரெடி பண்ணிட்டீங்களா? சரி வரேன்னு சொல்லு.
பிரகாஷ் ஆடியோ மீட் பண்ணு பிரகாஷ்.
Welcome back to the International Conference 2020, Session 2. I would like to call Dr. A. Chandramohan, Head, Department of Biochemistry, to introduce the guest speaker of Session 2, Dr. Prem Saran Thirumalai, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Rohini madam. Good day to everyone and a warm welcome. It's myself, Dr. A. Chandramohan, Associate Professor and Head Department of Biochemistry. Feeling delight to be a part of this program on behalf of management, principal, IQAC, faculty members and students. I take immense pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our resource person, Dr. Prem Saran Thirumalai. I would like to present an introduction about our resource person. At present, Dr. Prem Saran is working as an assistant professor in Department of Botany, Faculty of Science, Dayal Bark Educational Institute, Agra. He has completed UG Microbiology and PG Applied Microbiology in University of Madras and doctorate in Molecular Biology in Dayal Bark Educational Institute. And he has various papers publication in like IEEE and Scopus and UGC Catalyst. With this brief introduction, I am taking you, Dr. accepting to be a keynote speaker in this international virtual conference, session 2 on transcriptomase for understanding of life function. Now I request Dr. Prem Saran to take over the session. Now the session screen is yours, sir. Dr. Prem Saran.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Dr. Mohan. Thanks for giving me a very wonderful introduction. I must tell you, thanks to the entire team of Anne Violet, because you've done a wonderful job. Thanks for having me here, giving me an opportunity to talk in this session. It is wonderful to be here. And good morning to all. I am Prem Saran Thirumalai. I am by qualification a microbiologist, and I'm working as a faculty member here in the Dayal Bark Educational Institute. And today I'm going to be talking on a subject which is very close to my heart. I've been working in this for a while now. This has also been my PhD work, and I'm continuing to do with that. And I just want to highlight the applications of transcriptomics, how we can use this in our own research arena. It has varied applications. Many of them, once you go through the presentation, you will be able to make out, you will have come up with your own research ideas on how to use transcriptome or transcriptomics for your own research questions or research problems. So without having to take more time on giving introduction to what it is all about, let me start sharing my screen. Yep. Yeah, so that's my topic, transcriptomics for understanding life functions. Okay, so I know why this. Yep, is the screen visible? Yeah, so as a brief to what we are going to be discussing, I will discuss the basics of it, why we are discussing transcriptomics, and then go into the advanced level. And to explain to you how transcriptomics can be used in our research arena, I'm going to be giving you two stories. This is going to be a research story, two stories. So story one, story two, and then finally we'll come to the implications or applications of transcriptomics, okay, or transcriptome. So how do we understand this? Let's go to the basic level one, which is, let's understand what life functions are. So if an organism, if we consider that as a life system, growth, reproduction, metabolism, response to stimuli, adaptation, and homeostasis. I would say that is what defines what life is. So you can see in the right side, we have these 6 aspects which we can call as the life functions. And in this, we'll be discussing with focus on something called as homeostasis. What is homeostasis? Homeostasis in physical terms, if you want to understand it in terms of physics, it's like setting up equilibrium. If you look at it from a life perspective, so it is the ability to maintain a relatively stable internal state that is actually to adapt to the external environment and adjust your internal environment. This is inherently part of all living systems. Prokaryotic system, eukaryotic system, unicellular organisms, multicellular organism, irrespective of what they are, we all have inherently something called as the homeostasis. So this, this language here, the second sentence is, from plants to puppies to people, everybody, we have this concept of homeostasis. It is inherently with us. It's in us. So I'm going to be taking up one aspect of homeostasis. How our response to a stimuli, when I say response to a stimuli, an environmental factor. See, we are all a living system. When we say a living system, we are what we are, not because of what is inside us, it is also because of what is outside us. In the sense, our environment, our ecosystem that we live in, makes us do changes internally. That change is because we have to maintain something called as a homeostasis. Okay, so if there is a stimuli, external environmental stimuli, we are supposed to adapt to it. And why we adapt? Because we need to maintain the balance between the external environment, our internal environment. So we have to maintain that balance, that equilibrium, which is what we call as the homeostasis. If homeostasis is well maintained, okay, then we will be able to consistently grow and also metabolize. So if we are able to metabolize, then growth will automatically happen. Now, if we cascade down to from a multicellular organism to a unicellular organism, see, me being a microbiologist, I would always take a microbiological perspective to explain the ideology of transcriptome using homeostasis. Okay, so if you take a microorganism, a bacterial cell will respond to a stimuli, an external stimuli. The external stimuli can be change in temperature, change in pH, or change in any environmental condition. Change, or say the presence of another bacterium in the same environment is going to make the bacteria behave differently. That is what we are going to discuss today now. Okay, so that response the bacteria gives to an external stimuli is basically an adaptation for the bacteria to survive the change that has happened in the external environment, which is what we call as the homeostasis. Okay, and this change or adaptation is going to bring about a large, huge implication to the way metabolic pathways happen inside a bacterial cell, or in fact inside any cell. Metabolically, things will change inside a bacterial cell or inside any cell, and that is largely going to affect the growth of the microorganism or any cell, as a matter of fact. So if you go to the level 3, having understood what homeostasis is, so if you have to understand homeostasis, you will have to consider all these 5 aspects. If metabolism has to happen, metabolism will have to adapt, will have to change in order to maintain homeostasis. So if metabolism is there, metabolism is basically comprised of biochemical pathways, different biochemical pathways. So if we talk of biochemical pathways, we have enzymes. Without enzymes, there are no biochemical pathways. If we talk of enzymes, enzymes are nothing but proteins, either pure proteins or conjugated proteins, however you want to say that, but all enzymes are proteins mostly, right? And if we talk of proteins, we cannot negate discussing about RNA. Because if we talk of central dogma, we are discussing the central dogma here. If we talk of central dogma, DNA to mRNA, mRNA to protein. All right, this is central dogma. This is core. Now, genome, when we talk of DNA, that we call as genome, right? The entire gene segments or genes present in a DNA sequence or a DNA segment of a cell is what is called as a genome. If we consider the entire set of proteins secreted by a cell, we could consider that as proteome. Transcriptome is the entire set of RNA molecules, specifically messenger RNA molecules produced inside or synthesized inside a bacterial cell. Now that is what is called as transcriptome. All right. Now we are going to be discussing about this. Why? Why are we so particular about transcriptome? See, ultimately, genome will have to be translated to protein, and the protein defines the entire functioning of a cell. But between that, instead of quantifying protein, if we are able to quantify the mRNA molecules, if you are able to quantify how much a particular mRNA molecule is being synthesized inside a cell, you will be able to actually judge or interpret how differently a cell is behaving and how much it is going to imply on the metabolic pathways. Okay, that is what we're going to be discussing here. So one aspect of homeostasis is, this is something all of us know, all genes are not expressed at all times. This is fundamental to biology. All right, you may have, I'm going to be referring to a bacterium called Listeria monocytogenes, and the bacterial cell that I chose is got 2,974 genes in the entire genome. Okay, now all 2,974 genes are not going to be expressed as proteins at all times. No, that is not going to happen. Which means gene expression, the expression of a gene into an mRNA or from mRNA to a protein is actually regulated, which is what we study in something called as an operant concept. Operant concept is known to all of us. Okay, so gene expression can happen at 3 levels: transcriptional level, translational level, and post-translational level. So there is a kind of a switch off and on mechanism. So let us now understand, for example, simple example, let us say, let us consider lacoperon. All right, it's a very simple example. Lacoperon has got genes coding for 3 different enzymes, and these 3 enzymes are required for breaking down lactose sugar. These 3 enzymes, if you understand the entire concept of Lacoperon, these 3 enzymes will be synthesized. Enzymes are what? Proteins. These 3 proteins, which will be packaged into an enzyme, will be synthesized only when there is lactose in the medium. If there is no lactose in the medium, the synthesis of these 3 enzymes are not going to happen. That means there is a switch off and switch off mechanism, which is what we call as the gene regulation. This gene regulation is what switches off and on the expression of a gene into a protein. And now this, in a way, is called as homeostasis inside a cell. Homeostasis inside a cell. See, cell will not unnecessarily waste its resources to synthesize something which is not required for the cell to function or to exist. That is what is called as homeostasis inside a cell. So an inherent life mechanism for maintaining homeostasis, which is called as gene expression regulation or gene regulation, right? Okay. Yeah. So now, having understood this, let us go into the next level. This is all basic. What we discussed now is all basic. Advanced level 1, we have to understand what a transcriptome is. We have to understand the term transcriptomics. So transcriptome is the full range of messenger RNA or RNA molecules expressed by an organism. The entire set of messenger RNA molecules expressed by a microorganism or any organism or any cell is basically called as the transcriptome. So it is the mRNA molecules. The entire set of mRNA molecules that can be synthesized by a cell is called as the transcriptome. All right. So the transcriptome can also be used to describe the array of mRNA transcript produced in a particular cell or tissue type, which means the same. All right. Now, what is transcriptomics then? It is the study of the transcriptome. When you try to understand, see, when we say transcriptome, the data that you generate out of transcriptome, the amount of mRNA molecule, 2,974 mRNA molecules, mRNA transcripts produced, that's a huge amount of data. So you need to study the data. That study of transcriptome is what is called as transcriptomics. So the complete set of RNA transcripts that are produced by the genome under specific circumstances or in a specific cell. This is done using high throughput machines. You have next generation sequence, which is the latest, and we also had something called as, we continue to have that, which is called as the microarrays. Microarrays is growing obsolete these days, but then it is also a wonderful tool. So we use high throughput machining to understand transcriptome, which is what is called as transcriptomics. That is level 1. Now, this image tells you how we do the transcriptomics, the analysis of transcriptome, how it is done. So on the, basically today we have 2 different ways of doing it. One using RNA sequencing, which is the latest. Today people follow more of this because it is more free and it has got more advantages over microarrays. But I personally have used both of these and I was comfortable more with microarrays. So there are 2 technologies available. But before that, 2 things. You need a biological sample and you need to extract RNA from the cell. You need to extract RNA from the cell. How you process the RNA is dependent on the technology that you choose to work upon. Next generation sequencing is the latest. Microarray is not the latest, but still it is available, it is usable in the market. Now, how it is used, I will explain it to you in the slides to come. Once you do the high throughput machining, the data that you get, you use the data to understand how a particular gene is expressed differentially. What do you mean by that? When we say it is expressed differentially, you take cells, the same set of cells, you put the cells into two different conditions and extract RNA from both of them. So a cell which is put into a different system is going to respond to that system in a particular fashion. So cell A and cell B. Cell A, let us assume we have kept it, a simple example, we've kept it at a temperature of say 37 degrees Celsius, which is our body temperature, and you take another cell which you've kept in at say temperatures below 5 degrees Celsius. Definitely the cell which is kept at below 5 degrees Celsius is going to adjust to the environment, and that adjustment will show up in the form of change in the metabolic pathways. And the change in metabolic pathways can show up by the amount of genes expressed or the type of genes expressed for that, adjusting to that particular condition. That we will quantify. So when we quantify, we will be able to understand how the cell adjusts or adapts to the change that it has been put through. That is what we study here in transcriptome. So the implication here is vast, unimaginable application. If you want to put it into research, you can put it into anything you want, anything, name it. Today, in the COVID era, what we are doing, we are trying to develop vaccines on one side and trying to work on something which is very difficult, although it is developing an antiviral drug. So let us assume somebody has come up with an antiviral drug for COVID, for the coronavirus. And he or she wants to know how the viral drug will affect the host cells, what kind of an impact it will have. What we do today is animal trials and then human trials. Imagine if you have this set of transcriptome, human transcriptome of different tissues and different types of cells. We know how a particular type, let us say neuron, a nephron, or maybe an epithelial cell, they must be expressing genes in a different way. When you expose that particular cell to a particular drug, will they get affected? And if they get affected, how will they behave? What will be their response? That can be studied by using transcriptomics. That is the wonder of this technology or this science, transcriptomics, transcriptome. So on the left side, you see are basically the microarray machines that are available today in the market. I have used the Agilent platform. The other platform available is Affymetrix. The bottom is Affymetrix, the top is Agilent. Agilent uses a microarray slide. Affymetrix uses a microarray chip. All right. On the right hand side, you have the next generation sequencing technology, which is absolutely a different technology altogether. I'm not going to be getting into the depths of technologies. That's not what we are. We need to understand what transcriptomics is, how it can be used. I always tell my students one thing: understanding a technology, no big deal. If I put you through a machine for 3 months, you will be an expert in that machine. If you want to learn, you can become a master in that field. But as a scientist or a researcher, you need to understand how a technology can be used, where a technology can be used, and how the science makes sense. And that is what we need to do. So that is why we're discussing transcriptomics here. Now let me start with the story part. That is all science, understanding. Now I'm coming to the story part. This story is basically a research that we did in our lab. So this first is two bacteria living together in a social situation. So let us give this story a name. They're living together, the live-in relationship of two bacteria. Story. Okay. So what are the two different bacteria that we used? One, Listeria monocytogenes, the bad guy. Okay. And the other is Bacillus subtilis, the good guy. Now, what you have to remember here is this bad guy is got 2,974 genes. This is as per the database for Listeria monocytogenes. So what we did, we tried to bring both these two guys, the bad guy and the good guy, together. We tried to bring them together. We put them into a social kind of a situation. So this is a study which is basically called as the sociobiology. Okay, what we did. Why we did this? Because we consider, if you remember the life function slide, response to stimuli is also a life function. And if that stimuli is the presence of another cell, responding to a presence of another bacterium inside a culture medium is also a stimuli, is also a response to a stimuli, and that is a life function. And let me remind you all those microbiology you are listening to this. We study microorganisms in laboratory conditions as pure cultures. But in the natural environment, microorganisms do not exist as pure cultures. If you go sample a surface, all right, microorganisms do not exist as pure cultures. It will be mixed culture. You make it pure in your lab. But the problem is, microorganisms, when they are existing in pure culture state, they are very different as compared to how they exist in their natural environment. Because in the natural environment, they respond to the presence of another bacterium in their neighborhood, which is not there in your pure culture condition. So social behavior is a response for sustenance in a community. Microorganism, bacteria also behave in a social way. They decide whether to cooperate with the other bacterial cell living. So Listeria monocytogenes, they will decide whether to cooperate with Bacillus subtilis or fight against it. So how they adapt? This adaptation can be studied by understanding how genes are expressed in these cells. That is what we did. So social scenario, we put the cells into a social scenario. What were the 4 different social scenarios that we put it into? First scenario, like we grow the cells in our lab, pure culture, in broth. Okay, pure culture in broth. So the bad guy, Listeria monocytogenes, which is, I'm calling it a bad guy because it's a pathogen, right? It is a pathogenic organism. So we put that guy into a broth. All right, that was the first condition. The second condition was, we put the same bad guy in a biofilm. So biofilm is basically a 3-dimensional layer or structure that is formed by bacterial colonies, immobilized colonies on a surface. That is what is called as a biofilm. So the biofilm environment is very different to a broth environment. In the broth, bacterial cell is called as a planktonic cell. Okay, in biofilms, they will be called as a sessile cells. They behave differently in these two environments, very differently. The third scenario is, we put the good guy and the bad guy together in a broth. Okay, that is scenario 3. That is Listeria monocytogenes and Bacillus subtilis. Okay, and the fourth scenario was, we put both the good guy and bad guy in a biofilm kind of a situation. So this is, they are trying to live together. We are trying to understand how they behave when they are brought together. And this is basically the natural environment of how microorganisms exist. It is not this. Hardly in the environment, in the natural system, you will find microorganisms as pure cells. Seldom they exist like that. But unfortunately, we study microorganisms that way. Okay, so we are putting them in a social situation. And what we got, this is mind-boggling. So what we did was, we took the 24 hours broth culture, which is the pure culture of the good guy, the Listeria monocytogenes. And as I had mentioned, we consider that as a reference. That is, we took that as normal. Okay, and we compared the other 3 situations, how genes were differently expressed. how genes were differently expressed. Now, this is only quantification. The data I am showing you is only quantified data. It is not qualified data. This data is available on NCBI Gene Expression Omnibus website. This is open to access. This is my data. I am sharing it with you. So what happened when we put Listeria monocytogenes in a biofilm kind of a situation, compared to the broth, 572 genes were expressed more than how much they were in broth condition. About 916 genes did not show any change in their, they did not adapt to the biofilm kind of a growth. And interestingly, 1400 and odd genes were not produced at all in biofilms, as compared to these genes were produced in a broth condition in pure culture, but not produced in biofilms. That means they are not required for biofilm. Scenario 3, we put Listeria monocytogenes, the good guy, the bad guy, and the good guy, that is Bacillus subtilis, both in a broth situation. What was the change? About 700 odd genes were differently expressed. They were expressed more as compared to the pure broth culture. That means this is an adaptation. This is also an adaptation to the presence of the good guy in the social environment. So in the presence of Bacillus subtilis, Listeria monocytogenes started adapting, responding to the stimuli of another bacterium. And that stimuli was shown up as increased regulation, upregulation of 700 odd genes and down regulation of 1600 genes. About 600 odd genes did not show any difference. They were the same. And when we put Listeria monocytogenes, the bad guy, and Bacillus subtilis, the good guy, in biofilm kind of an environment, 580 genes were more expressed because the situation was different. This bacteria is going to, the bad guy is trying to now adjust to the good guy presence. 500 genes, 580 genes differently upregulated. 1300 gene downregulated. What does this data suggest to you? This data says that the smallest of stimuli, environmental stimuli, can bring about a whole lot of change in the way genes are expressed inside a bacterial cell. How we could understand this? Using transcriptome analysis. Now that was the first story. That is the general story. The second story is the Listeria sugar eating story. This is the second finding that we did. Listeria eating sugar. Okay. When we say sugar, I don't mean sugar. I'm referring to something that we'll be discussing now. So again, the same situation. The bad guy here and the good guy here. Okay. Listeria monocytogenes is the bad guy. 2974 genes with Bacillus subtilis, the good guy. Now, this is something basic. Rhamnose sugar, most of us must be knowing, it's a naturally occurring deoxy sugar. It can be classified either as a methyl pentose or a 6-deoxyhexose. We know all of this. This is basic biochemistry. Now, what happens in this case? See, rhamnose fermentation, rhamnose breakdown, let us say. The breakdown of rhamnose by Listeria monocytogenes, the carbohydrate breaking down by Listeria monocytogenes. Rhamnose is a sugar, that's why we call it the sugar eating story. So if Listeria monocytogenes, the bad guy, breaks down rhamnose for energy, for whatever purpose, If it is doing it in an aerobic condition, it will convert it into lactaldehyde and pyruvic acid. This is the end product. There can be a number of byproducts, that's a different story. And for this metabolic pathway, you specifically need two main genes, that is lactaldehyde dehydrogenase and L-lactate dehydrogenase. Let us see. Anaerobic condition, the same bacteria, the same sugar. Now it is not aerobic condition, it is anaerobic condition. What is going to be the end product? Propionate or propanol. Propionate or propanol. And the enzymes, you have set of enzymes here. Now this is basic about how rhamnose sugar is broken down by Listeria monocytogenes. Now, see, Listeria monocytogenes, when we grow it in the lab as pure cultures, okay, in order to identify, we use a chromogenic selective agar, which is basically called as the high chrome Listeria agar. This is high media agar. High media is something that most of us in India know. So it's a monopoly, so we know what high media is. In this agar, there is rhamnose sugar present in it. The agar actually looks like it's saffron color, something like saffron. And when the colonies, Listeria monocytogenes colonies grow in there, it is blue in color, so it looks beautiful. All right. With a yellow halo, you can actually see a light yellow halo. The media changes yellow. The yellow coloration is because of rhamnose getting broken down into acid. Now that is typically rhamnose breakdown. Okay. In this particular agar, that is Listeria high chrome agar. Again, same social scenario, 4 social scenarios, and what we see as regards to how the bad guy is eating the sugar rhamnose. Look at this. When we grew Listeria monocytogenes pure broth, this is the typical colony. When we grew that from biofilm, typical colony. When we put them both in broth, that is the bad guy and the good guy, in the presence of Bacillus subtilis in broth, and we try to enumerate or detect Listeria monocytogenes from this condition, the growth was typical, no change. But when we put Listeria monocytogenes in the presence of Bacillus subtilis in a biofilm, and when we try to detect Listeria monocytogenes from this condition, the color of the agar medium completely changed. And the colonies were atypical. First, when I observed this, I was thinking like there's something wrong. There's probably some contamination or something. So the color of the medium is changed. How can this change? That means I've done some contamination. I did it twice, I did it thrice, I did it 4 times. And the results were repeatable. Same. The color of the agar medium had changed. What was it? Why was it? I did some study. Let us understand what the study is all about. Why we use Bacillus subtilis is because Bacillus subtilis is a very good bacteria in suppressing pathogenic organisms. So what we call as the competitive exclusion, in a term called as the Gauss's law. What does Gauss's law say? Gauss's law of competitive exclusion principle say that no 2 competing species can exist when one species has even the slightest of edge over the other. Which means if Bacillus subtilis is better in terms of growth, it will automatically try to suppress Listeria monocytogenes, the bad guy. And that is why we chose Bacillus subtilis. Bacillus subtilis is also known to be a potent antibiotic producer. It is also used as probiotics for animal feeds. Now, what happened? Bacillus subtilis was better than Listeria monocytogenes in this social environment. Because Bacillus subtilis, the good guy, was better than the bad guy, now the bad guy has to decide what to do now. I need to survive. How do I survive this? This is the finding. See, in order to maintain homeostasis, homeostasis we maintain because we have to survive, sustain. So microbes resort to metabolic pathways that are most optimal for thriving. That is, they choose a metabolic pathway which is most optimal for them to survive in that particular condition, which is a competition. The competition is between who wins, Bacillus subtilis or Listeria monocytogenes. So Bacillus subtilis was better than Listeria monocytogenes. So Listeria monocytogenes shifted, adapted to the presence of Bacillus subtilis, and that adaptation was change in the metabolic pathway in breaking down of rhamnose sugar. That is what is shown there. So Listeria monocytogenes, when grown with Bacillus subtilis in co-culture, that is both of them together in a biofilm, shifted to an anaerobic fermentative pathway. They shifted to an anaerobic pathway from an aerobic pathway as a survival tactic because they needed to survive. Ultimately, for all living organisms, it is survival. They have to survive. And this condition was because of competitive social stress, which is what we call as a stimuli, an external stimuli. And Listeria monocytogenes is responding to it. That stimuli. What we found. This is original data. Okay. This paper is already published in Canadian Journal of Microbiology. Now, if you look at, there are about 10, 12 odd genes. All these genes relate to utilization of propanol or propanediol. Okay. So on the right side, you can see the bars which is in green. On the left side, you can see bars which is in blue and red. So blue and red basically is representing the first, second and third scenarios, that is mixed broth and pure biofilm. And these genes were not required by Listeria monocytogenes in these two conditions. But these same set of genes were required by Listeria monocytogenes in the presence of Bacillus subtilis in a biofilm condition. So the scenario now changed. You can see these genes were expressed more than what how they were expressed in these two conditions. So they are positive and they are negative. That is what I'm trying to show here in this slide, in this graph. Okay. These are the genes that were differently expressed by one same bacteria, Listeria monocytogenes. It is just that the conditions changed. Now you see the difference? This is what transcriptome tells you. One small change or one small stimuli can bring about an ocean of difference in the way cells start to behave. And that change in cellular behavior can be studied by using transcriptome, by studying the transcriptome analysis. Now, what do we understand, infer from this? If organisms are open systems that maintain homeostasis, let us an organism, a cell, they are open system and they want to maintain homeostasis. They are composed of cells, have a life cycle, undergo metabolism, they can grow and they adapt to their environment. So this is basic definition for life. This is basic definition for life. So in order to understand how organisms or cells adapt to their environment, in our case, shift in rhamnose metabolic pathway, okay, respond to stimuli, presence of Bacillus subtilis by Listeria monocytogenes, we have used transcriptome analysis. And the findings are amazing, unimaginable. Now, I have just given you examples of how we could actually use transcriptome analysis. I have put it to use to study how Listeria monocytogenes, a bacterial cell, a pathogen, behaves in a social environment. But the implications are huge. You want to understand different genotypes of cells, you can use transcriptome analysis. You can understand by studying the differentially expressed genes. Different developmental stages. So if you take from a fetus to a full-grown infant, if you want to know the entire developmental process, how cells have evolved, what happens when it comes to what you call as from progenitor stem cell to the full-grown matured cell, what are the developmental stages that have happened? So you can study each of the developmental stages using transcriptome analysis. How different, see, if you take a human cell, the stem cell, from stem cell, they get differentiated into different cells. That means the set of genome is the same. Why is it that a particular cell expresses only a particular set of genes and not all? You can study that. How a particular cell responds to a particular stimuli. How does a cancer cell express their proteins or genes differently as compared to a normal cell? You can study that. If you want to give a treatment to a diseased person, infected cells, you study them. You say how they respond to an infection, respond to a treatment. So if you actually see transcriptome, what we basically do is we extract RNA from the target cell and we quantify the RNA. So in case of Listeria monocytogenes, I told you there is a database for Listeria monocytogenes which says 2,974 genes. For the strain that I used, 2,974 genes were there. Gene transcripts known. Out of which 60% of the gene transcript, the function was known. What is the function? They get expressed into what protein? That was known. So if you know what they get expressed into, you will also know the function in terms of metabolic pathway. That goes into something called as better metabolomics. So you can actually understand how each different gene is expressed in each different condition that you want to create. And the data is wonderful. If you actually want to study how living organisms adapt, survive, exist, transcriptome analysis is a wonderful tool. Okay, so I end my presentation with this here. Talking no more, I've given you examples of how we can study, where you can use. I've just given you example in terms of microbiological perspectives. You can now go on and use it anywhere. Eukaryotic system, prokaryotic system, human cells, animal cells, plant cells, name it. You can use it anywhere you want to. You have applications for it. The data is huge. So there is a separate web link in NCBI. You know, I'm sure you guys know what NCBI is. In NCBI, there is a separate link called a Gene Expression Omnibus, GEO. And they have a collection of all these data of transcriptome analysis, which is open to all. Even my data is there, open to all. I've submitted it there. It is available to anybody can use my data to come up with their own research. Okay, so I end with this here. Thank you so much. That's all I'm done. So I'm open for questions now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for a valuable talk, Dr. Prem Sharan.
Thank you.
Now we start with our question session.
Yep.
One student from Research Scholar have asked that how can I integrated transcriptomics and the proteomics data, whether we can interpret or enter something like that.
Yes, we can. See, but then the problem is if you want to understand post transcriptional regulation. Okay, see, regulation can happen, gene expression, gene regulation can happen at 3 stages that I told you, right? So transcriptional level, translational level, and post-translational level. Now, if you want to know some of the genes that are expressed at that are transcribed, but then they are not completely translated into a protein. That also you can understand by mixing the data of transcriptome and proteome, bringing it together. All right, that is doable, that is possible. But the only thing is, for doing such a thing, you have to have huge amount of funds, I'm hope, and I'm sure you have enough funds to do that. That was a lot of funds, I must tell you. But that will be a wonderful study if you want to do that. Yes, that is possible. That's
Yeah.
doable. Yeah.
Thank you. Second question: why different transcript of same gene show up and down regulation in control West treatment?
No, I did not understand that question. Can you come again
Yeah,
with the question?
why different transcripts of same gene
Mhm.
shows up and down regulation in control in treatment?
Okay, see, I told you this, right? The genome doesn't change. If genome changes, then we call it as mutation, right? So we are not going to be talking about mutation here. Assuming that there's no mutation happening, all right? So the gene transcript, yes, they will remain the same. But in order to adapt to the stimuli, the change that the organism or the cell is put through, the cell has to adapt to it. It has to survive, right? So in order to adapt, it forces the transcription level to change. So in a control sample, you will have a cell expressing a particular gene transcript at a particular level. When you put that cell into a different condition, the same gene transcript, whether or not, depending on whether or not it is required, it will either be down regulated or up regulated. The expression will vary. It all depends on whether or not that gene is required for the adaptation mechanism. All right, that is why the changes happen. The changes will happen, and I must tell you, it is very dynamic. Although I am telling it in a very theoretical kind of way, it is very dynamic. To study RNA expression is a very difficult job, very difficult job, because RNA molecules are highly unstable. They'll get degraded very fast. So it's a very good question. Your expression will depend on whether or not the cell wants to respond to that change or wants to make any adaptation. And that adaptation involves that particular gene transcript. It will depend on that. Yes.
One more question is there.
Yep.
Can we go?
Yeah,
One
please,
more
please.
question is there. Yeah. How to inactivate SARS-CoV in tissue for septal transcriptomics?
This is a research topic. Whomsoever is curtain is a good question, yes, but this is a research topic. See, let us understand this. Virus, we cannot consider that as a living organism, right? So it is inserting its viral RNA into the host cell, and then host cell is using its replicative mechanism to amplify the RNA, or the gene transcription happens of the RNA, the viral RNA. Now, if you want to somehow target the specifically one gene, right? So one viral component, it is inserted into the host cell, and that host cell is going to express it. How do we now target that one particular sequence from not getting expressed? And it's an eukaryotic system. Eukaryotic system gene expression is very complicated. You have splicing, you have packaging, you have different kind of a system. Post-transcriptional regulation also happens. It's a very complicated system. So a lot of research has to be done into this. It's a research topic. It is not a theoretical topic that I can discuss about. But yes, this is an approach that can be taken to understanding COVID expression. All right, but it is very difficult for me to answer the way theoretically it can be answered. It's very difficult to answer that question.
Yeah, one more question from our professor,
Yeah.
Dr. Prabhakaran.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Please.
Sir, in what way this transcriptome is
Yeah.
related to our body metabolism?
Every way, sir. Every way. In fact, when I was trying to, actually, sir, Prabhakaran sir, it's a wonderful question, I must tell you, because it will throw light on many students here. our own body cells. So we have different cells, right? From stem cell, we are getting cells are getting differentiated into neuron, nephron, epithelial cell, whatever different cells, right? So if you want to understand how a particular tissue is behaving to a particular condition, all right, you can put those tissue cells into a condition and then study the transcriptome of those cells. It is possible. In fact, they have created a database for transcriptomes of different cells and tissues, human cells and tissues. It is available online. It's open.
Okay.
It can be studied, so it will give wonderful results. I think the future is that. That is what is going to be the future. I'm telling you this. It's a wonderful question,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you. Any question?
Question? Thank you, Prem Saran.
Thanks a lot.
It's a wonderful talk and valuable session. What is transcriptome for understanding of life function? You have explained all the things, each and every corner of the transcriptome in such a way, 3-layer people can understand. Layer 1, UGPG and research scholar, then uh, professors. Thank you. Small comments.
Yeah.
A comment received from Dr. Kanagatara. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your support. Dr. Kanagatara, Associate Professor from Savita Institution, and Dr. Prakash, University of Madras, Nanoscience and Nanotechnology Professor.
Yeah.
And I very much thank Dr. Prem Saran. That was a highly informative session. On behalf of our management, IQSC Department of Biochemistry, Chemistry and Physics, Anna Violet Arts and Science, we are grateful to Dr. Prem Saran for the excellent lectures on transcriptomes for understanding of life. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Mohan. Thanks for the entire team of Anna Violet for inviting me. It was wonderful being here. Thank you so much. Right.
The live has stopped now.
Okay.
Okay.